and crunchy. It is Friday. Uh, we'd like to welcome Cara Murphy today to the Irish Food Trade Connect conversations. Welcome, Cara.
Thanks very much, Margaret, for having me here today, and thanks to Rachel for organising it as well. Delighted to be with you today on this lovely Friday.
I know, no sun yet, Cara. I don't know.
The
The weather
sun
is
is going
let.
to clear out after lunch. I know
Is
it's going
it?
to come.
Oh,
Yeah, positive
fantastic.
thoughts,
Yeah,
positive
we keep
thoughts.
it on a positive note because the weather hasn't been doing too much for us. Cara, it's great to see you, and I'd like to start and ask you a little bit about your background and how you got involved in the food. How did you start in the food industry?
Oh, mine started a long while back, within the industry over 30 years. It was by accident I fell into it, Margaret. That's the easiest way to explain it. I had three kids. Had to get myself a job because my relationship, my husband and myself split up. Um, and it was like find myself something that I was interested in, that I needed to make money, and something that would work around the kids' timeframes. I'm sure many people on this call know exactly what I'm talking about. Especially being a woman, you're trying to balance home life and work life. So a friend of mine owned a super value in the vicinity, and he made a job for me, which I was so lucky with. So I was able to drop the kids off to school in the morning, go in and do my job. My dad used to collect the youngest one. She was getting out of primary school at 1 o'clock. Used to come for lunch in my house, and then I get to come afterwards, collect the other two on the way home. And that's how it started. Started off working in the deli because I loved food. I liked making food. That was my background for years within home life. Mom was big into baking and making wholesome foods. My grandmother the same. So I kind of had a hand in there already. I knew exactly what I was doing, but I needed to had to adhere to procedures, processes, systems, as in HACCP, which you'd all know about, most of you that are in the food produce manufacturing. And that's how it all stemmed. Started off there, progressed then into the buying role within the supermarket, and ended up
And
managing people.
just, I mean, that's very interesting. We've had chats before about because I'm in the very same or was I'm in the same position as you were at that time, like it's just a case of you're trying to balance the children, the family, and all of that. So at that time, like, what kept you motivated? Because food is not the easiest job in the world, you like
No,
what kept you motivated during those years?
I think the appetite for success, Margaret. I had a taste of success then, and when I would do something, I would like to think that I would do it well. Um, I always wanted to be. I was always a high achiever, and I wanted to do my very best. But the motivation was to put a roof over my kid's head. Financially, I needed to work. That's a motivator within itself. But there's two elements of that. It's a motivator, but you also burn out very quickly too. So you're on that wheel all the time. So starting off from that, then I knew the position that I was in, and I stayed with Ryan Super Valley for a long while, and I moved from one store to another. And I was so lucky to have that network of people and that team of people there. However, somebody had called into me, and there was a rep on the road and said, look, there's a job going within a sector in the food and beverage sector. They're looking for a rep. I think you'd fit in and you'd do very well. Went for the interview, didn't think anything of it. And they hired me. So a logistics company, PRM, up above in Lisburn. I mean, I'm based in Cork, the most furthest point that you can possibly think of. However, at this stage, the kids were starting to grow a little bit more, and they were able to fend for themselves to a certain degree. And I put measures in place that I was able to get myself out on the road. And that's what I did. I went repping, and then I started learning about all the different retailer outlets, food service outlets, and started to work in that sector. Working with all the different types of brands, large portfolio of brands, nearly all chilled, some ambient. So again, my strength would be people and working with people. And I was told I had a natural gift of being able to talk. I'm a Cork woman, same as you
Ah,
are.
you do, and we do, and we do. We're well able.
But I thought everybody had that natural gift. And it
Mm.
wasn't until somebody said to me, you don't realize how important that is, that strength it is. So from there onwards, I used to liaise with a lot of the producers, manufacturers. A lot of them were based in Cork. So stemmed from there. And then lo and behold, then Muller came looking for me to start working with them, which was delighted to do. I went working, they were building a team in Ireland. So worked directly with Muller for a good 15 years across all sectors of it and all different retail accounts I worked with. But because we didn't have an actual office base, we all worked remotely. So before COVID ever hit, I worked remotely for a number of years. So I was well used to that before COVID. And it can be a lonely old road, you know, when you're used to engaging with people when you're working remotely. However, that I used to make sure that I got out into stores, back to my basic roots to where I started from, engaging with the team of people that I started off with. And I think that's the core of understanding business in Ireland, especially Ireland, networking, making sure that you're collaborating with people, ensuring that you just tie in with people all the time, and the word people. So it's a very, very important.
It is, and that's the one thing I suppose, having been on the commercial side, same as you for many years, is that personality that you connect with your buyer or seller on the other side. That connection when the conversations are tough, which conversations are very tough today, really tough when it comes into commercial discussions, since inflation, deflation, all of it going on. Is it deflation really when you see actually on the grassroots what's happening? How do you find your personality and how you connect with people helps you to get those conversations warmed up as such?
Again, I'm a talker. However, but you have to be a very good listener, Margaret, and you have
Mm.
to have that balance. You hugely have to have that balance when you're engaging with buyers. You need to know what their needs are. You need to know what. And I was very lucky in the sense when I was working with Muller, the training that I got was second to none. This was on an annual basis, but I also sought it out. And I think it's very important for people. Again, the educational piece is very important. Getting out of that hub that you're in, the mundane every day. I think you need to get out there and find out what the hell is happening out in the sector. Um, Again, as I said, going back to engaging, you have to have a relationship with a buyer, no matter what. Whether it's uh, close, you don't get close to a buyer. What it is it's they get to understand how you work. You get to understand how they work, and you find that middle ground of okay, this person, we'll just say A, is not a talker. However, you find that commonality, whether it's are they a Man United fan, are they you have that commonality. That's the first tip that I would say. Find that, and you just walk in the door and say, before you even start talking about business, how are you today? Or Man United did very well over the weekend. Jesus, they did do very well. You know, and you find that, and you're breaking down those barriers straight away. And then you get down to business. But I always find you start off like that. You do your business and you go prepared. Always go to prepared to a buyer because they don't have time. You're one person of maybe 300 they could be seen over a period of 2 weeks. If there's something happening, if they're engaging for planning for Christmas, whatever it is, they have a lot on their plate. Go prepared. Make sure that you got all your business, your tips, everything that you have that you want to do. Be prepared to go into them. And I always find they will engage. Keep it snappy. Don't take up too much of their time, but at the same time, make it personable. And the other thing I always find as well with buyers is asking that question before you leave. Is there anything, any projects that you're on at the moment that we can help with? Throw it at me. Is there anything that I can help you with? And don't be afraid to ask those questions, because they're only looking for a solution. If they have a problem, they're looking to the market to have a solution, and that always helps, you know. And that's where you get your relationship with the buyer. There's other things as well. It's like getting it right first time, filling out your forms correctly, taking the time out to do it, taking the time out to plan. Very, very important. A lot of producers don't take that time, and they go in ill prepared, and it's like it's like anything. The buyer is sitting across and saying, okay, do I trust this person? They didn't take the time out to prepare for us today. Can we do business with you? Will you turn up? You know, that type of thing. So it's definitely a trust element. Like every relationship, it's a trust element.
Like every relationship, and I think not everyone, and they say, right, salespeople, are they really salespeople? I think if you have that knack to connect with someone, and I think you're right, you can't ever walk into a buyer with a heap of problems, because
No.
you're becoming a problem then.
Mhm.
I think offering the solution, however difficult that may be, but I suppose understanding what their problem is before you go into them is crucial, because their time is limited as well. Their time is very limited.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of companies, and that's where your business is an extremely important service, routes to market, of how to help the producers get in front of these buyers and get the route in. So if you can give us just, how did you think of setting up routes to market? Where did the concept come from? And how is it going so far?
Okay, so really it came from producers. Some of you may know that I've been kind of in the background with Blossom here for the last number of years, about 14 years, kind of since
No?
inception. I went down there as a judge actually, I went with Muller looking for a dessert business. They were seeking out a dessert business in Ireland. And somebody had said to me, go down to Blossom here, and you might meet somebody down there. And in my conversation, actually, it was to do with a producer that had won an award. And I was kind of in the background listening. And the producer turned around and she says, what am I going to do with this? And I kind of said, well, of course, in my mind, I'm screaming like, take it to the buyers and show off that you're the accreditation that you have to win. You're a finalist. You've just won a gold in one of the most accredited food awards in the country. So take it to your buyers and show off. And I had that conversation with Archie Clifford afterwards, and I said, my ABC stuff that I do on a daily basis, people, they can produce, but they don't seem to know how to navigate to sales and marketing. So worked with Artie and Fallon on doing a showcase piece, which is just grown it's just exploded over the number of years. And I do the buyer's walk in the showcase. We build it from a greenfield site, big, and that's where the awards is. So the stem from there, it was actually the producers were coming to me and say, Cara, they were asking me questions, and they asked me where I should go, and they're supporting them. And a couple of them just turned around and said, why don't you start your own business? Because my USP is there's a lot of consultants out there, a lot of mentors out there. I'm extremely passionate about we'll say, the artisan producer. I just feel that they don't have enough of a resource, but the LEOs are there, and it's great having that. But a lot of mentors that are out there kind of tell them what to do, but they don't show them how to do it. And then that's where the gap is, and that's my USP, my unique selling
Brilliant.
point. So I walk them through it, what they need to do. I don't say you need to get listed with Tesco's. I show them how to get listed with Tesco's and set up the meetings with and I'm only picking Tesco's. It could be any of the retailers, but the systems within all of the different retailers are very different. The buyers are different. There's different models. And I start off at the shop floor where I started off. and showing, and I'm looping back and back to my roots. That's part of the play on the words. Roots as in food, roots as in play on words of route to market as in logistics, supply chain. It all encumbers into that name, routes to market. And whether you're a small artisan producer to a global producer, manufacturer, it's all the same basics. And at the end of the day, trying to sit in front of a buyer to understand their system, you need to work to their system sometimes, and you have to marry the two of them. And that's where that's where my business has stemmed from. And again, it's like everybody else. I have to get out there and sell my business. I have to network, and I invest in time networking, which is so important. Myself, Margaret, and Rachel, we've all discussed this. We need to get out of our offices and spend time to understand how to trade, how to understand what the new trends are out there, what's happening within the food and drinks industry in Ireland, but further field as well, seeing where the trends are coming from. And again, I was very lucky when I was in Muller. All of that was kind of done for me. We had a department for everything. So there was a big fund behind it. Whereas I do think it's self-help here when you start your own business. It's a lower route, but you pull in the people and the support that you've had. I mean, I've had huge support from a network of friends, I would call friends, but also colleagues that have been in the same boat. And it's just asking them for their experiences and the shortcuts, the tips, how to navigate through that road. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's there's a lot in it, but at the same time, you need to take that time out and plan.
you too. And it's funny, like when I was thinking back to when I started in Dunn stores on grocery floor, all them years ago, and we used to have the dairy reps that be coming in and they'd be filling their aisles and you'd be signing off their stock card. The next thing, another rep would come in and they might take two shelf spaces and then there'd be a bit of who, how, what. And the reps going in, they know what they're at, and I didn't really uh kind of understand. I suppose I kind of came from a forecasting background. I didn't really understand how the shop floor, and I think it's so important to understand how the shop floor runs. Um, because that shelf space, you can get
Mhm.
the listing, you can be listed, but if someone is coming in and they're not getting that shelf space, especially for your own brand, like if it's own label, it's probably a different conversation, but your own brand, if you're not, and this is where I find it a lot, is I often say, well, do you have a field sales team? Or we don't. No, we're in and out of stores, and then we're giving it, and you kind of go, well, you need people on the ground looking if you have that shelf space, because you won't see it coming across in your sales if you don't have it. And that seems to be a big challenge as well. And having to manage those conversations, because I suppose the store managers have their briefs and sometimes these things go unnoticed, that certain spaces are, and if you don't deliver, then your space is gone. Your space on the planogram can kind of disappear nearly.
Yeah.
So I think understanding it from the ground up, because people go, oh, we got this order, it's great, we got this order. But really, like, there's more to it once you get the order, then, like, there's the operational of it. Is it going into store and all of that sort of stuff? It's tricky.
Yeah, and actually that reminds me of a story of a lovely man that I worked with.
Mm.
He was down in Brewery in Limerick. And I always remember he started working, he was doing distribution through PRM, and started off making garlic butter. And I remember him being getting listed in a retailer, I won't say who it is, and he'd counting out the stores. And then all of a sudden he turns out, oh my God, we're going to be multimillionaires overnight, kind of thing. It doesn't happen like that. It's the pull through and execution at store level. You
Mm.
could have all the listings in the world. You could have 20 listings, but if the person who is actually ordering, and as I said, different systems, different places, some automatically order, some don't. If there's a glitch in the system, and you don't have somebody going into that store and seeing it on the shelf and checking out to see, is there an issue there? You're finished. Like, absolutely, your orders aren't coming. You have a forecast going in. Great having your forecast, but if there's a glitch in the system, falls off the system overnight, it could be combis full of product, it could be a truckload of product, depending what it is, could go overnight if there's nobody looking after it. And like, I was with a very big company, but the key people in that company were the sales reps that were going into stores, going in to check, to audit, first and foremost, but not just audit, to pull the stock out from the backup if there was nobody there. You could have somebody
True.
sick inside, you're just saying dairy. If you could have somebody sick for the day, they didn't have the people to pull the products through. You might have white shelf space with no product on it. Go into the backup and put it in. Like, they're simple ABC things, as I call them, but a lot of people don't know what the steps are. And that's what I do. I teach people about, or producers about, when you get listed, this is how you get listed, but also this is how you pull it through and execute it at store level. So they
Yeah.
need to understand everything about it.
And I think that's a great point you made earlier about like consultants telling you uh, what you should do rather than how you should do it.
Yeah.
And that is also something I'd find, like, if you don't get stuck into it and kind of, because there's a lot of unknown, and depending on the different size of company you are, certain companies can hire a certain skill set and pay for that, and certain companies are just not at that level yet.
Yeah.
So I feel there is an opportunity where a business is on a growth trajectory, but yet they can't pay for, a head of sales or someone to drive that in a different strategic way. That's where your service comes in.
Yes, that's my service, but it's also again something that I'm trying to work at. A big challenge out there for an awful lot of the smaller producers that are not going through central distribution is distribution. The
Yeah.
white van man is not there as much anymore. From my time, I used to work with the white van man. I used to meet them at the back of this at the back store and say, you need to load up more. They'd have extra stock inside there. We don't have that facility as much anymore. However, I do think there is definitely a market for it. Again, it's something that I've been trying to do a little bit of work on with a couple of producers. But there's also that piece as well at the moment. Those those reps that you're talking about there, they're working for companies. I'm trying to set up something at the moment with a couple of producers and say, you need to do self-help here. You need to collaborate within your county. You're all going the same direction. You're all going to the same shops. Can you not get together and try and do a cooperative to have a sales rep to pull through all of your products together if they're going to the same destination? And it's something, that model was there when I was on the road. It was a company called SWS Marketing down below here in Cork. And they had somebody in each province to pull through maybe about 10 different manufacturers at the time. Did it, they were all self-employed, and the manufacturers put the money together. And it's just an idea that's out there at the moment that I'm touching base with a couple of producers. Again, this has worked in the past. It's not new news, but it's just faded away over the time. And sometimes you call it progress with, we'll say, smartphones, we'll say, you're talking about your tablets, that type of thing. But to pull through an execution from a person going in, which machinery is great when somebody's driving it or somebody's working it. But if you
Yeah.
don't have people coming in to make it work in store, it just doesn't happen.
No,
You
it
can't
doesn't.
replace a person, you
No,
know?
you can't when it comes to the likes of that. And as well, the data that goes through the system, if it's not clean, no
Yeah.
technology. And people always say, oh, what are the new technologies, and this and an AI will drive this. But AI data or anything like that is no good if the actual original data isn't clean or people aren't seeing with their eye and recording historical stuff so that they can trend it. None of it has any use if that isn't being recorded correctly. And that's where things seem to get convoluted in ways. But
And again,
how,
you're touching on data there. I'm a big advocate of data. I love
mm,
data. I love
yeah,
analyzing
I
it and
do as
seeing
well,
it.
actually. I'm a real believer in looking at the numbers and
Um,
seeing what story do they tell. Yeah.
but it's the way it's collated and also how it's presented back. And that's another thing for a lot of producers that they don't have access to a lot of data. And I think we need to do a lot of work with the agencies that are out there, the Borbias of the world, or I'm just using Borbia, but there's many, many out there. Is trying to, and I see that through yourself and Rachel have been doing a lot of that online. You're doing a lot of surveys to try and pull information out of people to understand what their need states are. And it's fantastic, I'm loving to see that coming through because you're getting it from the horse's mouth of what needs are, you know.
Well, I think, yeah,
So
because that's the aim of the trade forum is to be able to give people information of what's going on, try to do surveys, find out what people need so that we can give people what they need to drive trade within their business. Because not every, like, and what I've witnessed, you're probably the same, a lot of producers, they're excellent and very innovative and creative at what they do, but trying to make it financially work is another set of problems altogether. And often maybe very passionate about the way they create a product, but is there a material in that just is too expensive? Could you try something else? But then there's this concern that the taste profile won't be the same. And that is another set. But I suppose when you're up against, and that's something I want to ask you as well for the artisan producer, when they're up against the larger brand, how do they manage that? Like it's a really difficult spot for them to be in.
mm,
How do they get the shelf space with not having the economies of scale that the larger brands do, probably not having the marketing spend, don't have the marketing spend. Um, so what can they do to kind of get get on that shelf and secure it? Because it like there's some
yeah.
beautiful products out there, and like I mean, having gone down to Dingle last year and seen the array of products that lost their hair and have the entrance of the awards, like some beautiful products, and sometimes you can't find them. Like I actually, um, God, I think it's is it an onion mayonnaise? Can't think
Yes.
of the brand names. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Being
I'm going
blasted.
online to buy it, but
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah.
find it in the
Bullying,
shop.
bullying blaster. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is beautiful. Like there's no word
Lovely
about that.
product.
Mayonnaise is absolutely gorgeous, but I can't find it anywhere. You know,
Okay.
so this is
We'll chat afterwards because I can tell you.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the
So
other thing about the
that's where you
gloss.
find the yeah, that's where you
Yes.
find my God, if I knew where that was, I'd be off buying it. You know, I mean, this is where I suppose you kind of go, how do they get out there, you know?
Yeah. So again, as you said, it's about the quality of the product. And I suppose over the 14 years that I'm working with Bloss, I have seen the growth trajectory with products you're talking about. If I remember rightly, it could have been 300 products. Now you're talking about the sampling 3,000 products plus. I mean, what you're seeing down below in Dingle is only a sample of what's after
Yeah.
going through.
Mhm.
You've no idea the amount of work in the background that the whole Irish Food Awards plus Heron does to advocate for all of these producers. I don't think even the producers know how much work goes in behind the scenes. But again, you're asking me about an artisan producer up against a global brand. Taste, quality, always comes out at the end, Margaret. I don't. You just said to me that beautiful mayonnaise. You explained it. You were passionate about it. You
I
will
actually
seek it
was.
out. You
Yeah,
will pay that extra money for
I
it
will. Yeah.
because that's what you want. That's your, whether it's a treat or something. And that's what I always say to producers. If you find that need, if you find that you have a market there, if you find your USP, that will sell anywhere. And I have to say, if the retailers have totally engaged, look, you've got the Kickstart program, you have the Grow program, you have Tesco's have really come on board the last number of years. You've Barry McFeely advocating. He was that small artisan producer. He's the buyer now. He brings in the smaller producers and supports and helps them through to into a big global retailer. Because you remember, I spoke to Joe Manning a couple of years ago. Malachy O'Connor would have been the buyer previous to that. And they've put in such resource there with their own he's the head trading manager. And all his buyers, he brought down 20 buyers last year, Joe Manning, to Gloucester to showcase the best of products on the island of Ireland. And I love that. It's the island of Ireland. Everybody's involved. You have a huge amount of Northern Ireland producers there, and they're starting to trade in Southern Ireland and vice versa, back and forth. But
Yeah, that
that's what
I'm
I'm
very
saying.
passionate about that. I'm like, I really feel, and I think from working in Northern Ireland the past year, I really feel the businesses that have driven an agenda up there, they should be congratulated because they haven't
Absolutely,
had the
yeah.
government, they haven't had the supports. And I'm very passionate about Island of Ireland and that cross-border piece. Because there's a huge trade opportunity there for export both sides, huge opportunity. That I think a lot of producers, it's the first step to going into another market as such, because it is
Yeah.
another market, you know. So yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think it's a
But
very,
yeah,
very
I mean,
important.
all of the retailers have engaged. You've got the Food Academy with Musgraves. And I mean, that all stemmed actually from Ross. Going back a number of years ago, Evelyn Moynihan was down with us, and a friend of mine, myself, we were trying to do something like you yourself and Rachel doing a survey about what information we called it the producer development program. And the Food Academy came along and said, look, we're thinking of doing something. So I said, absolutely run with it. You've got the resource to do it. Absolutely delighted. And that's where it all stemmed from. It was, and it's great to see it. You've had the likes of Neville Maguire, Brian McDermott advocating their cabinet, the Simply Better brand. There's the amount of artisan retailers that have worked under that brand as well, so it's coming from all of the retailers, and not just retailers, it's also coming from the food service sector. I know Nia Ruan there in Musgraves in Ballymun is doing a huge amount of work there as well. So it's filtering down into all of the sectors. But as you just spoke about up above in Northern Ireland is probably I was introduced to Northern Ireland retail sector and food service 20 years ago. My God, what retailers they are. They're savvy, they know exactly what they're at, and they have to be because they're caught between a rock and a hard place,
Oh,
and
there,
they're
yeah.
trying to put their own stamp on it. And I've always said it to majority of the producers in the south. I said, if you want to get your product up, go to Northern Ireland, get it up there. That is the issue. The logistics, you can get the wheels up there, but it's the van sales around. That is an issue,
That
unless you're
is
with the Hendersons of the world or with the Musgraves of the world. And even at that, a lot of independent sectors up there. You've got Arcadia, you have some lovely emporiums up there for specialty foods. So again, we're always talking about exporting. It doesn't have to be to Europe. We can export
no,
across our border. Yeah.
exactly. And it's the first step, you know. Um, what do you think, how do you feel the trade has kind of changed in the last couple of years? Like, I suppose it's been a very challenging couple of years.
Yeah.
Since the COVID for different sectors, for food sector got it, food service
Yeah.
sector got it, where retail drove on, and now you see a lot of businesses kind of looking at different sales channels to manage their risk as such. But how do you see that has changed? And how can
Yeah.
producers kind of adapt to that
Mhm.
change, or what would you advise them?
Well, I always find well, the landscape has hugely changed. I think it's more approachable
Mm,
from the buyer's piece. I think it's very approachable. I think that relationship has changed. The old style was belting down on the table, demanding. That has totally
Or,
changed the engagement between the producer and the buyer. I personally think it has. Other elements of it, yes, COVID did kicked in hugely. The retail sector went up, but the food service sector went down. So somebody's always impacted, always. Whether you're talking about price inflation, whatever, somebody's always impacted. But I always said this, and I've seen it happening over the years. As particularly one company, I'm going back, oh geez, definitely 25 years ago. And I won't name them. I'll just say they were in the bakery trade, making breads, and then there was a big global company came in and kind of overtook their monopolized it. However, that company, instead of folding, they diversified. They found what was on trend. One of the lads was living in the States, in the US, and I'd say a lot of people are after guessing who I'm talking about already, but they diversified into, instead of making baguettes and stuff like that, they diversified into making bagels and wraps and things. People's needs change over years, and that innovation at the time, that's now their bread and butter, literally. That's what they've changed to, and they diversified, and they ended up building their own factory and have never looked back. But they could have easily folded and given up. But anyone who's in the food sector and who is passionate will diversify, and they will look for those trends. They'll ask the questions: what's the need? What are you looking for? And if you have that relationship in the retail food service sector, asking that question could change overnight.
yeah, it's a good point now, because a lot of, I suppose we're all very passionate about what we do. And we
Mhm.
think what we're doing, everyone is the same, but they're not. So I think that adapting to your customer's need and the market, and having the boots on the ground, because we're all we're all different customers in a different market. What you might buy and what I might buy might be very different, So I think
Mhm.
having that knowledge about, you know, like especially today, the younger generations, I call them, or my teenagers, buy very different, like
Yes.
like a lot of the time they won't even eat the dinner I make here now. That's, so I'm having to adapt my shopping basket to to two teenagers palettes, or otherwise I'm there's a lot of food waste in this house if I don't do it. So it's, even as a consumer myself, and then, for um for a household that's one adult and two children, it's going to be very different to, and what's the demographic of that,
Yeah.
and different producers looking at, okay, do I want to sell into that type of a family, and what does that look like? So I suppose even going down, not even going past the trade level, and going down to the trade's consumer, and understanding what's that like, and even telling that story to the trade ahead of them, because they know what it is. But if the producer doesn't know what it is, they're kind of going in a little bit blind with their offer. And everyone thinks they're producing the best thing and it's the greatest thing since sliced pan. But if no one else thinks that around you, if your market doesn't think that, then it's of no use. It will never sell. So I suppose having that market research piece is crucial to your
Hugely.
to your
I
to your
was, yeah,
consumer.
I was very lucky to be at Brand Bite over in the Bio Innovator a couple of weeks ago. Another piece that I wanted
Mm.
to invest in myself to see as well. So insightful to understand what trends are coming up, what innovation is, what others are looking for. And beyond that trend, I mean, I know mushrooms are trendy at the moment, all different types of mushrooms. So when you know that, like tap into that market, whether you're making a pizza, make mushroom pizza, you know what I mean? A different type of mushroom pizza. And it's just being on trend and being innovative. You might have the same base, but you might have to adapt it slightly. You mightn't have to get new machinery or anything like that, or you still have the same people working with you, but you just have to adapt. Sometimes easier said than done sometimes as well. It
Yeah.
depends what business you're in, but it's instead of the negativity coming in straight away, try and look for opportunities. I always find, like, I always remember the recession when it hit and people were saying the restaurant trade was hit massively. Yeah, but every chipper in the country went up because people were still getting their takeaways on a Friday.
Yeah.
The takeaway, somebody benefited from it.
Yeah.
And you'll always have that. And sometimes it's not fair. I mean, I'm really feeling for the restaurant trade at the moment, hugely
It's
feeling for it.
tough. Yeah, it's
It
tough.
is. And but I do think since COVID, there has been a change. People got used to eating, dining at home. People can't afford it. They will save up for it. We spoke about a mayonnaise earlier. It might be that little bit more than the standard mayonnaise, but you'll save it. But you won't use it freely. You'll put it on certain products. You won't just lash it on into a coleslaw or something. You use a small bit of it. You'll savor it and you'll enjoy it. And I'm finding that with the restaurant at the sector at the moment. We used to eat out quite regularly. We don't as much anymore. You know, if we could do it once every 2 weeks now, rather than twice a week before, myself and him, we used to eat quite regularly. But COVID kicked in. We got used to either cooking more at home or doing our fake away, or you just diversify, and that those trends change.
They do change, and that's a good point because I would even see that I wouldn't even eat out as much, and like that I might bring kind of more nicer products in at home, and it's funny how is that will that trend last or what's that going to look like? But I suppose the costs that, and this is where something I feel challenged with every day in my own work is that the composition of the cost of things, because say energy was sky high last year, now it's come down. But labor has gone up. So
Mhm.
trying to justify your price when all the different variables are going on. So when I sit in the buyer's chair and someone says to me the price of labor has gone up, and I'd say, which the price of labor has gone up for me as well. And then, so knowing what to actually, I suppose, knowing what battles to choose when you go in
Yeah,
front of a buyer as well, like, because there are commonalities that certain things have come up and down. Certain commodities are up and down, like chocolate has gone stone mad. So I
yeah,
suppose you'd be saying, right, okay, if we're making something with chocolate, we may need to review the recipe and see can we reduce a little bit there without compromising the product. But I think all those solutions, rather than going in and saying, oh, the commodity price has gone mad and I need X amount, there's only so much the consumer will still
yeah,
pay at the end of the day. But what what can be done with the product to kind of make it more cost effective without jeopardizing
yeah.
the
So you
quality
have
of
to build your
the.
rationale for your buyer.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to.
you have to
And
build a
this is
rational.
it. You have to actually pull together all your facts and figures before you go into them and say, okay, it is unsustainable for me to be able to actually manufacture this product. However, this is what I'm thinking. I have either reduced the size of the product.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, that
That's
happens.
one option.
Yeah,
Two is um to maybe to what you call it is to put up the price of it for the end consumer. I mean, there's a couple of ways around it, and the other is I find, and this is a global problem as well. I hear what you're saying about the chocolatiers. I know growing in Mullins and also
yeah,
all Ines chocolates as well. I had this conversation with her up at Bloom. Again, it's the buying power, and they have their contracts the with their for their raw materials. Again, maybe get together and globally buy it, or get onto your buyer. They might be able to help a solution of buying in the chocolate with you. You have that conversation, and you have that conversation with many of your competitors as well. And that's when you tie together. Sometimes that helps to work that way.
it does, and I think that's where the Trade Connect Forum has,
Yes.
you know, because that's where you do feel it's a very lonely journey. Like if you're only buying 3 or 4 pallets of something and someone else is buying containers, you will never get that. You'll never get it, you know. So that collaboration and connection and, you know, chatting about the different options across the table with a few experts speaking going out and asking for the help, going out and asking, what am I going to do here?
Yeah, I
That's
take my
that's a
hat off to
crucial
Bronnie
forum.
Mullins.
Yeah.
I totally do.
I have to say, I
She
really
went to the
admired, yeah,
people.
what she's,
Yeah.
yeah, she has basically brunt bare and said, this is what I'm dealing with. And I think that's a very honest, open place to come from. And someone that
Absolutely.
stands open like that and says, I'm bloody finding this hard, I need help. They're the people that's going to succeed, I believe.
Yeah, and actually, it's the coffee industry. Going back about 2 years ago, still going through the same thing, and they've pulled together. I know there's a couple of coffee roasters. Again, I'm saying here in Cork, because there's a couple. This is where my base is. I know they've pulled together something very similar. They had that issue, and could have been detrimental for some of them, you know. But
Mhm.
they did, and I always feel if you ask for help, it's hard to ask, but we all have to ask.
Yeah, yeah. We have to, I think it's a huge self-awareness when you can ask for help. You're very self-aware that some of these things are out of your control, you know, and that can be quite hard for someone that's driven and, you know, especially an entrepreneur, it can be very hard because you think you can, you know, you think you can keep all these balls swinging, but actually some of this stuff is out of your control. But
You wear
maybe
so
just
many hats.
you wear so many hats. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
being
many hats.
self-employed is tough, but at the same time, you've got a lot of satisfaction. Then you're getting to do your dream, and that's the way I look
Well,
at it.
well, and that's like, I mean, that's the thing they say, look, if you like what you do, or you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It won't actually say it's going to be easy.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not like there's no doubt about it. Like you and I know, even though we have a service business, it's any day of the week, it's not easy. Like, and you're juggling a lot of balls and that. But I think being able to kind of connect with good people, and that's how we met. Like we met
Yeah.
through the trade forum, and being able to connect. And if you have a concern or an issue, that you can pick up the phone and say, you know, I'm challenged here. Like, what could I do? Because it is a lonely road if you don't ask.
My abiding memory coming out of the Connect Forum, and I wouldn't have known you well, neither
Mm.
yourself or Rachel, much. I'd only met you a couple of weeks beforehand, and it was. I remember a lady in front of me, and what she said is, the caliber that was inside in that room today. She said, when would you ever get all those people in the one place? And that stood out to me. It's go seek, go have a look. I mean, I went to the Connect Forum. I had planned who I needed to speak to, because obviously we knew who the guest speakers were and that. But outside of that, those who attended as well, I met people there that I currently working with now and hopefully will work with. But I went ready and I connected with them, and I've said to them, this is what I do. I feel that we could work very well together. Or I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks, you'll be swamped. Or and that's very, very important for that networking piece, especially the Connect Forum. Being prepared. Don't go to an event not knowing what you're going to do there or
Mhm.
having a plan. They would be my tips in saying, know what know what you're focusing in on, know, and have a couple of questions ready, because I think it's very important for everybody to engage in the room, for the whole forum, for everybody to know, stand up and say, I'm such and such a person, this is what I do, and this is my expertise, in an environment that, and have a question ready, supported to help the team that are there as well. It is important.
It is, and I think because it's an informal setting, and that's what we try to do, is not have it, it's not a formal setting. It's
No.
basically, there's no ever wrong question, or there's no, you know, and just finding out who was in the room, because the amount of knowledge in the room from different sectors, different areas, different people, and that's why it's open to small and medium-sized businesses, producers or manufacturers or service providers. So because
Yeah,
all the like, as much as you say you don't need the help and the support, but it's there. It's actually there for the
yeah.
taking. It's there for the taking.
Like
So
for
to
me,
make the best out of it.
I remember saying to you, Jesus, somebody here that has cement. I know something about that.
And they're thinking of exporting it,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 yeah. And I
yeah,
guess I just turned around to you and I said, cement. I know someone who worked in that industry, and you don't know, who knows who. You don't know who you're going to bump into.
you
But I,
don't
my
know.
last saying is, I know a man who can, or a person. I'll be very politically
Well,
correct.
that's
A
the thing.
person, yeah.
You know someone who could. We'll open the floor to any questions if anyone has any questions for myself and Cara. Um, how is business going so far, Cara? Like, are you enjoying the journey?
Oh, I am, yes. I really am. I've been busy the last couple of weeks, more so the last couple of weeks. Bit of personal stuff at the start of the year, kind of my partner had to go through surgery, so I kind of had to put things on the stop for a while. So a lot of my business has kind of caught up with me. But it's great. I'm getting queries from a lot of people and very diverse queries, as
Hmm.
in the service that I provide. It might be just a phone call to I want to spend a block a couple of weeks with you. But also, again, about this, the biggest issue that I'm getting coming through is to do with distribution, and that's why I'm trying to get some solution for people at the moment. But I need to network more and get expertise from my network of people in the country as well. But yeah, am I enjoying it? Absolutely, loving every bit of it. And I'm so passionate about every brand that's there. I've said I can visualize it on shelves. I can visualize the next steps of where it needs to be at. But what
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying is showing the producers how to do it for themselves and seeing
yeah,
them grow. That's what I'm liking. And kind of look, and I have an example in my head going back a couple of years ago in Bloss. There was one family that used to come down to Bloss every year, and the kids used to be little dots. They're like steps of the stairs. And the last time I saw them, they were teenagers. And I was just said, it frightened me. The growth spurt over the years, but remembering how they grew up and what environment they grew up. And that's what I'd like to see with the smaller artists and producers. But again, those who are ready to scale up as well, or even the global. Everybody needs help.
yeah.
Everybody needs support.
And I met a man there last week. Was it last week or the week before? And he had run a sauce business, and he was basically saying he didn't want to scale up. All he
Yeah.
was happy enough doing. So I think that there needs to be a recognition of people that just like to produce products, but they actually don't want to scale. They do it as something that they like to do, like, and no, unfortunately, he said that, the focus was that if you're not exporting, then, but that, I mean, we all have different ambitions for the size of a business we want to have. As I said to someone the other day, I'm building no empire here. Like, there's no one here wants this.
Yeah.
This is only for me, I mean, like, this is only me, giving back the knowledge that I've had after 20 odd years of working on it, and that's important, especially for the smaller companies like that who can't
Yeah.
afford
And
the level of expertise. Yeah,
another issue I'm finding with a couple of producers is succession.
very true.
As in they've built up company and the business, and they're getting to the stage of retirement and kind of saying who's going to take up the gauntlet, and the family aren't interested.
No.
So that's also another piece of work as well, and saying, okay, what do you want to do? Want to sell it on, or whatever is what are you selling on? And you have to delve and kind of say to them, you need to get into your financials and have a look at them and deep dive into that, and we'll see what's it's just having somebody to bounce it off of, because you kind of say, I spent so many years building this brand, I'm so passionate about it, but nobody else is passionate about it in the family. And I'm kind of saying, yeah, but That was your dream. And it's making it the reality. It's your dream, not theirs.
It's a good point.
They
It's a good
shouldn't
point.
feel, yeah, you shouldn't feel, they shouldn't feel that they have to do it because they're your son, daughter, whatever it is, so again, there's other options and saying, okay, maybe somebody else might, maybe one of your competitors might want to buy you out, and looking at those options. But yeah, I'm finding that, and not just within the producers, I'm saying finding that in retail, right across the board as well.
Very interesting because you're right, like we can't determine, nor should we, what our kids want to do, you know. And having had chats with my own too, like, no, there doesn't be a mention of food industry, like not a mention of it, like there'd be criminology mentioned a bit, all right. But anyway, that's another story. But I suppose building up a business to be able to sell it, there's a different level then that
Yeah.
needs to be, because the business has to have a value to get the right money for it. And
Mhm.
that whatever it means from an infrastructural point of view, or from like your resources, be it, the human resources or the capital resources that's in it, all of the business has to have a value. Even though there may be a lovely turnover in it, if the structure and the framework of it isn't there,
Yeah.
it's not going to be worth the value. So I suppose to any food producer that is considering that, that's another piece that really needs to be taken, like putting a value. If there's an exit plan to get out in 5 or 10 years, what's
Yeah.
that working at? That's a very important piece as well. Very important piece as well.
So that's what I'm saying. You're talking about some startups to middle tier or scale up to those who want to retire. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I meet all walks of life and at all different stages, which is again, it's lovely for me because it's not mundane and it's every day is a school day. I find that,
I
yeah.
do find that, and I say that often. You shouldn't be shocked sometimes by any day, because every day is a school day. And the more people I meet, and the more business people I meet, entrepreneurs, the more I learn. I mean, I've learned so much from the amount of people that I've come across on my own journey so far, and it's absolutely an excellent learning curve. Like, it can be steep at times, but if you're
Yeah.
up for the challenge, I think you'll do all right.
But I think the key thing is to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Give yourself a bit of time out. I know, and that's how we met, Margaret.
Yeah.
It was we invested in time out at this retreat pizza we did, a women's retreat, and it was good food, good chats, but also having the solidarity of people. I know it was women, but that's I always keep saying I would love to see something happening for men as well, especially
Yeah,
in
it's true,
business,
because
the chat. Yeah.
men don't have that level of support
Mhm,
as
mhm.
such to each other. Um, where women are quite supported. It is a very, very valid point. And um maybe it's something someone should think
Throw it
about.
out there. Yeah,
Throw it out there
exactly.
is right. Yeah, throw it out there. Cara, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thanks so much for coming on to talk
Thank
to
you
us
for
here
having me.
today.
I really
Thank
enjoyed it.
you. Bye bye.
Bye bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye bye, everyone.
Bye.